One's ready. Go!
Yo. Before we head into this next episode with Pimp Freeman, you guys have heard us talk about Attacklate over and over and over again. And it used to be that you could just go to our site and just buy it direct. But we don't do that anymore because we migrated sites away from Shopify to Squarespace. And so there are some changes that come with that, but that's okay because sometimes change is good. So, but I don't necessarily need you to go to attacklate.com anyway, because here's the thing. We don't really have a promo code with them. Maybe it still works, maybe it doesn't. But the thing is that we have our own URL with them. So if you, instead of trying to find it, if you want to, you can head over to our site and then you can, let's see here. Let me make sure I'm sharing this. Yes, I am. Okay, cool. You can head over to our site, go over to Prep, partner discounts, and you can scroll down and you got other partners on there as well, but then you can hit Attacklate. Now you can hit that link, any of these URLs, right? And it'll take you straight to their site. And then look at that coupon code, redeem that coupon, and then that's what you can get. And then you're good to go. You get a discount, you get their swag, you get their merch, you get all the stuff that you need to prep for Air Force Special Warfare Pipeline, BUDS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection, Ranger School, or you just want to get better in the pool because you happen to be going to some of these ONESREADY, Guardian Grit, Taylor Starch events. That's cool too, man. So head over ONESREADY.com, go to Prep and Partner Discounts, click on Attacklate, and that'll get you a ONESREADY specific URL with discounts all over the place. All right. Now, enjoy this. I'm just BSing with my friend over here. Phil Freeman. The dude has been a CCT for, I think it was 24 years before he retired, and he's been retired for a while now, but we're just kind of rapping, shooting the shit a bit. And yeah, man, he's a good friend of mine, and we went from there. All right, enjoy. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the ONESREADY podcast. I'll cut that out. I won't say what I said right before we started recording. But everybody, we're in the team room. It's Peaches and it's Phil Pimp Freeman. Pimp, P-I-M-P, all caps. I can't remember. You are a returning guest, but I can't remember if we ever explained what PIMP is, but that's okay. We don't need
we could tell that story. That's maybe we did tell it, but we'll tell it again.
Tell it again.
Good story.
How in the hell do you get the call sign Pimp? Which whenever you introduce yourself like that, everybody's like, "Oh shit, that's a pretty cool call sign." Is it though?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like it. Do you like it? I mean,
I love it
though.
But I don't really
we're such good friends. You don't even call me that. That's even more disappointing. You've got other names, and I'm not sure I want those out there. So here's how the whole Pimp thing went down. All right. So as we have a mutual friend, the Gons, and we were they went to a race one weekend in March. They had us up in their suite and we're up there having beers and this and that. And I tailgated pretty early on the way to that. So I was feeling right, from the morning until the race was over, and I was in good spirits, having a good time. Everything was on the up and up, and then we had a bunch of our team guys with us, operators and some logistics. So it was the Saturday race, so we were allowed to bring in some other folks to the suite, which was nice. They just love taking care of the military folks and whatnot. So it was really cool to do that for our team. And so we continued the party, taking it down to the Strip. And we were in Margaritaville back when they had the little bar up top where there's a guy playing live music and you could overlook the Strip. So we went there and hung out for a bit. And then, of course, more people started showing up because it was it was during cast phase and we had, lots of folks in town. And of course, we're having some adult beverages and whatnot. So then we start moving our way down to New York. So we're all going to go to the Piano Bar, which is at the time, it's still one of my favorite places. There's a really cool bartender there named Marco that I've known since 2001. So we always go see Marco, and had a little bit of juice at the time. This is back in 2005 or 6, I guess, and or 4 or 5, or I forget whichever. But anyway, so we're down. We get to the piano bar. We go to the door. And the bouncers let us all in. It's all great. And, they stamp our hands, and everybody's like, yeah, this is great. You might have to pay the $10 or $20 cover. And, people like to cut the line and, the velvet rope thing. And, it was always a good time with those dudes. And we took care of them as well. So anyway, it hit me. I had to take a piss. So, and before I got there, let me back up a little bit. Before I got there, when I was at the point now where I feel like I'm at a 40 knot headwind. So I'm like leaning forward, like in the back of a C-130, trying to get on the ramp. And I have no business being in public. And I'm like, going by the slot machines. I think I'm like hitting the levers back when they did there. And like people are getting, wait. So finally I really should have gone home.
You're on the verge of getting kicked out of the casino.
Yeah. And that's not good. That's not good. So anyway, I go into to the bar, and everybody's in there, all our buddies, and I got to excuse myself to go to the restroom. I pop the restroom, and I go in there, and I'm like, man, I've had enough. And I'm leaning on the restroom, relieving myself, and my hand slipped, and next thing you know, I was peeing in my pants. So instead of like stopping, I just put my head against the wall, and I was like, I'm going
whatever,
home.
Man.
That's it, man. Whatever. I'm just getting out of here. This is one of those days. I mean, I don't say we all had them, but I've had them. So, I don't really care about if other people's had them or not. So anyway, come back out. Nobody knows the difference. Go back to the piano bar real quick. Hey boys, I've had enough. I'm out. And they're like, you leaving? I'm like, yeah, I'm done. So I go out and go get to the cab line, and I get into a van. Van pops up. They open the door. I sit in the that little seat you step into, and then if you've ever been to New York, the cab line goes out. Then they have to take a hard right to do a U-turn to come back out of the New York. They go out hard right to do a U-turn at the parking garage entrance and come back out to Tropicana. So when they did that hard turn, I fell down with my head down in the little van spot where they opened the door, and my feet were in the air. I'm not going to say, but probably had some stuff trickle down on top of me. And the van driver, the cab driver, was like, "Are you all right? We need to stop." And I'm just was like, "Just go." And that trip, we were staying out at Lake Las Vegas, so I had to go all the way to Lake Las Vegas on my head, because I was like, "I'm not moving. I'm just going to go to sleep." So I got there, opened the door, got out, pretty much fell out and everything. So that made home safe. No troubles, no bubbles, no trouble. Everything was great. So then next week we go to the trough, and we're training and this and that, and somehow the story got out a little bit, and I let a friend of mine know, named Soup, and kind of just kind of told a story and laughed about it, because we've all had some fun times in Vegas together. So I was telling him about that, and so then it was time that they were going to name me in the trough. So they bring me into the, this one of the day, Friday afternoon. We've had a good week of casts and this and that. And they said we're going to name Phil. So I go in there, and they have that little bench that you stand on, the little stool that makes you a couple inches taller, which I need that as well. They put me on that, and they have a whiteboard, and people are already starting to write names that they thought would be on the board. What I thought. So they write a bunch of names on the board, and one of them was Butterbean. And I'm like, man, I do not want to be Butterbean. Every time I walk in a room, Butterbean.
You can see.
Yeah, especially, I like to eat and drink and whatnot. So, back then, especially. But so I was like, I don't know if I want to be Butterbean. And now I'm determined. I'm not going to be Butterbean. So they would if they write the name on the board, Butterbean, then if you do a drink, a shot, what have you, and this was a 30 millimeter shell full of Jack. That's a lot. So you drink the shot, the name comes off. Somebody else drinks the shot, the name goes back on. So it was a competition. And all the other ones were falling off because it goes by applause and crowd participation. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not going to be Butterbean. And Smooth was one of the guys. He was an A10 dude, and like I said, Soup was there. And I think the dudes from Kansas City were in town. So a bunch of those dudes come rolling in. Good Lord, Katie bar the door.
So
those guys,
yeah,
that unit, man. Those guys are good at flying and good at debriefing. We'll just call it debriefing. So they were all in there having a good time, and finally, Soup, after the battle back and forth of Butterbean, and probably filled up half of a industrial sized garbage can in there they have on wheels full of puke. Soup just says, "I got it, Pimp, P-I-M-P, because last week he pissed in his pants," and the place goes, "Yeah." So that was it. It was a circle Pimp, and that was it. Butterbean never made it back onto the board. So that's how it became. That's how it became Butterbean. That's how it became Pimp. So I can't even get it right myself. But anyway, that's how it became Pimp. It was a good story and everything. And then they just decided to name me there in the trough. And, I just felt nice. I thought it was cool just to be a JTAC. And this was before I was PCS there. So I wasn't even a part of the, a guest, if you will, not, an internal part of the family at the time. So I felt pretty, it was nice about that, and, so yeah, but it was good times. But we've all had our little moments there. But that's it. That's how the call sign Pimp came around. A little bit of entertainment and a little bit of wet. That's it.
Well, I mean, it's still weird for me. Like, it's not weird for me, but because I don't call you that and I haven't for years, it is interesting when I hear somebody say Pimp. Because it's like, oh yeah, that's right. It is Pimp.
Yeah. Well, I'm not the only Pimp out there. I think there's a couple of other ones, and some have pooped in their pants and this and that. But luckily that story didn't come out, so it's is what it is. But look, I'm not offended anyway. Never was really. If I like it, I mean, I walk in and that's it is what it is. When people, that's how I get addressed in the community now, and pretty cool. And,
but like in your opinion, because the Air Force has cracked down on call signs a lot, whether more of the, dubbed inappropriate call signs, but a lot of people that don't necessarily involve themselves in this kind of culture, like in special tactics, we don't necessarily do call signs, but we do operator initials, right?
Yeah, or a nickname if somebody does something stupid, like pees in their pants.
There's that too. But I mean, in your opinion, like why do those things, call signs, kind of matter? Because to me, I see it as it's a cultural heritage kind of thing, and like that's why I always introduce myself as Peaches, because one, it usually sticks with somebody, right? They don't. Mm-hmm. If I say Jared, they're like, yeah, okay, cool, already forgotten it. But if I say Peaches, it's enough for them to go, oh, that's kind of odd. I wouldn't expect that. And then they ask about it, and then it sticks with them, and they never forget it. But they can never also find me on our global email network either.
Yeah. Well, of course not. Yeah. So, I totally agree with you. It's if you're in the pilot community, you're going to get a call sign. Period. Dot. That's going to happen. And when I got mine, it was new enlisted, being a part of something that was bigger than the single person. What you got built at the weapons school. So being part of that fold was the honor. Was a big honor to me. And then of course, that they do that. It's like you're part of the family, and even today I still, like I probably said this before, but I play fantasy football with a bunch of A-10 dudes right now. And back then they were all captains, and now they're, getting up there in senior ranks. Some are generals and some are retired and this and that. But, it's just being a part of that family. And I would say the word family because that's what it is. I mean, I stay in touch with those guys. My social life is part of that. So, that's so yeah, I think it's it's the informal thing. It gives you trust in your people, even though it's just a name, but it just brings you together, and it brings you, it fosters, I think, it fosters teamwork and moving forward together, and collectively getting the job done when you're comfortable around people. And the nicknames, call signs are funny, man. That's probably some of the best parts. Like I don't know if they do it anymore, but the weapons school graduation, they used to put your call sign, your name, your picture, your name, and a call sign. Your first name, call sign, last name. I went to the graduation just to watch that. That's the funniest part. Just listening and laughing at what the names came across. So
Yeah.
There's one cat named Lewinsky, and his call sign was Monica.
Monica.
I mean, that was the funniest thing ever. I mean,
well, I mean, there's, I can, there was a guy with the last name Heine, and
mm-hmm.
his call sign ended up being poker,
Yeah.
But so in that kind of, time where people had to get renamed,
mm-hmm.
they dubbed his is inappropriate, and he ended up having to change it.
Yeah.
So there's, it's unfortunate, but there's
Well, let me expound on that a little bit too. So one thing I've noticed in the call sign world, because I've been around it now for over 30, seriously over 30 years, being in the JTAC business. So, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm going to, here it is. Here it is. All right. Yeah, you'll probably have to remove that. But anyway, here's this. All right. If you go to the Viper Squadron or the Raptor Squadron, they're great dudes as well. Their call signs are usually really cool ones, like Maverick, and the badass ones that are like Raw means war. There's a guy, so I'm like, why is your name Raw? Well, if you look in the rearview mirror, it means war. Those are really cool call signs. But you get down to the trough, the A10s, or you go, because we work with MARSOC and they have air officers in their JTAC program, and they're some studs. Their call signs are really good ones. They're ones that they're the ones that really matter, that mean something, because it's because they look like something, or their name sounds like something, or they did something. And I love that, because it's it's more humanizing than I'm Rocket. Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you get that name? Unless you rocketed across, sharded and rocketed across the thing of floor or some shit. I don't know.
I mean, maybe can be what it is.
But you know what I'm saying. It seemed to be more fun in the less pointy nose MDSs.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but I'm just my opinion.
No, I get it. More of a poking fun at versus poking fun and having a good time versus a cool guy kind of thing.
Right,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, so there's one call sign that we're actually very familiar with, and that's Chappie. And you had and I know you're going to back away from it, so I don't want to build this up to be like, so, because we've already chatted about this. You wanted me to make sure that I didn't like build this up too much, but so Master Sergeant Chapman, John Chapman, everybody knows him as Chappie in the community, right? And the kind of reason we started talking about him was because this whole Medal of Honor museum thing coming up, and the kind of drama that's involved with that and that kind of stuff. And that's something totally separate that we can talk about, or we don't have to talk about. But I definitely wanted to talk about is he originally was an award of the Medal of Honor. That was a big fight in justification and all the crazy amount of politics that's involved in that. And I think most people don't actually realize the political environment when it comes to the Medal of Honor. So it's enormous. Congressmen, senators, obviously POTUS is involved. Like it's enormous.
Mm-hmm.
But you provided a critical piece of information for that kind of maybe initiated it, or maybe it pushed it over the edge. So
added
to. So can we kind of talk about, one is where the hell you even got that piece of information from, and what that piece of information was, and just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah. So I deployed to Afghanistan in January 2002. Before that, we were training dudes. I mean, basically, once September 11th happened, I was on the road, pretty much on actually East TAC or at Gila Bend pretty much the entire time until December. And we had driven from Seattle down to Nellis and down to Gila Bend, so we set up the Nellis training as well. So, that's kind of where we were at that point. So, we deployed in January, and I was attached to the Canadian soft dudes. And those dudes are Olympic hockey players, man. I mean, here I am, the Denver Donuts, and here they come in with the flipping, Canadian hockey team. One of them was the weightlifting champion of Canada at a certain point. And look, it was I integrated well with him and everything. But then so it's, you know, was doing well. We would shoot, move, communicate, you know, everything was good at that point. So then we went up to this mission to go up to the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan, up in the mountains, and in an area of Kaust or something like that. But so we, so the first thing happened is that I was the only fast rope master on the bird. So we're all decked out in our winter outfit. I've never worn winter snow camis or anything before, actually. I mean, I've been snow training, but we pretty much went downhill skiing, not really what you need to be doing. So anyway, I come off the helicopter, instead of fast roping any land, so I go in right into the snow, disappear like Bugs Bunny. They come off it, you know. Next thing you know, I come up, I'm like, oh my God, you know, we go up, and I'm the only one carrying a ruck. So I got my ass kicked. The only guys carrying rucks were the CCT dudes. And there was a couple other ones, and I'm not going to name them, but, you know, a couple of my buddies were there, and we all were struggling. But they were with different countries. I was with Canada. So when the way back down, you know, I was hurting, you know, and hey, it's on me, and is what it is. And I think they made a good decision of pulling me off of that. So after we got back, I went back into the stock and was replaced. And that sucked. I mean, it sucked. It hurt my pride. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this anymore. I'm getting older. I've already had an ACL injury. Things are, you know, I don't know. So, you know, and then a leader, which I'd like to talk about, like, you know, later on, maybe I'll talk about subservient leadership. But there's a guy who was my leader named Terry Mackey, and he goes, I'm not going to allow you to have this attitude. So it's like every day we're rucking. So we rucked around and this and that, and basically he's like, all right, you're ready to rock again. So Anaconda hit, and they had all the guys, all the positions all filled, and they needed somebody to 10th Mountain talk. And that was, you know, it was me being the JTAC PM and knowing somewhat about close air support. That was a good fit for me. So I went into the 10th Mountain and was in, you know, helping the fires desk in there, you know, sending air out and this and that, trying to make sure the soft SOCOM assets, you know, task force, what I forget the Dagger or whatever it was at the time, you know, gets all their you know, gets cast as well as the conventional forces. So anyway, Chappie thing happens, and now that the cast was performed by Gabe Brown, who was on a CSAR mission, which he was at the 2-2 with us, and,
right.
and trained under our program. And so Gabe was on that CSAR, and we had two CCT with those two teams, the CSAR teams with the Rangers. It was Gabe and Jeremy Mercier, both JTACs, both capable dudes, you know, squared away cats. So, and then we had other guys who also very squared away, but just would due to lack of timing and air assets and whatever it else is, they just didn't get their JTAC qual before they left on this one rotation. They ended up getting it and going back later. So anyway, Colonel Mackey at the time said, hey, I want you to go to all the other CSAR locations and make sure they know what to say and what to do if they get in a situation like this, or ECAS kind of thing, you know. So I flew out and going to each place we had CSAR team set up. So I went into Pakistan to see some of the guys, and I noticed that the Predators were flying in and out of that base. And I think it's Jacobabad, but you know, man, I don't. Yeah, if that's the one, I know there's a Jalalabad. I mean, there's so many names over there, but I think it's Jacobabad. So anyway, landed, I go to the Has and knock on the door, and I said, hey, introduce myself. I was like, were you guys flying on March 4th during the Takur Ghar mission? They're like, yeah, we were. And so basically they brought me in and this and that and started talking about it and said, hey, we got that mission filmed. We'll show you what happened. So we set up a PSC-5 because that's an old brick radio, but nobody wanted to use it. And we had one of those available. So we set that up with a SATCOM because this was the Air Force Predator MQ-1s at the time. And those guys did not have ordnance or line of sight communications at that time. They do now, but they didn't then. All right. So that plane sat up there flying around unmanned, looking at this whole fight and couldn't do anything about it. Now they could have SATCOM called and this and that. And that Predator feed was on the screen in Bog where we were, you know, or everywhere else. What exactly? But it's what it is. All right. So we set them up a radio. We went through the mission and everything, talked about that on the video. And then they gave me a VHS tape of it to take back to Kandahar. So I did, put it in my bag, took it back to Kandahar and gave it to Intel shop. And, you know, that was that. We watched it again and, you know, everybody crowded around and that was that. And, you know, back then, now keep in mind, this is around when DVDs are starting to get proliferated, you know, and were big, but also you have VHS tapes still going. So people sending in tapes of shows and stuff. And so I was out on another mission with the SF and came back. We were loading up the ISUs and came back and like, you got to get your stuff in there because we're leaving. And because the mission I was on got extended. We were chasing a one-legged mullah across the country. Yeah. Anyway, kind of fun. So got back and loaded up my stuff. And when I went into my little mud hut, because we were in that mud hut to go in, I was in the back left room and going in and just started shoving all my stuff in the boxes and bags that I had, and just to get everything loaded, because I was the only one that wasn't loaded up yet because I'd just come in. So I loaded everything in and left it. Boop, here we go. We go home. Go back to Afghanistan, go to Iraq, all that, put all my stuff, never really even noticed the tape or anything again. Then I PCS'd to Hurlburt to help with the fire support program. Mike Martin, General Martin now, but he sorted it out to where I PCS down there to help Matt Schleich and get take our fire support program to another level, because we could see the future of, the next 20 years was going to be close air support. We didn't know how long it was going to last, but we knew it was going to be, pretty focused on that. So there's no cages at the time at the group and whatnot. I mean, it was that little bitty building over there, across from the headquarters. It's not the big OS building they have, or it's not the one that they've revamped. This is the old one.
Yep.
And no cages or anything like that. So I have to store my crap at the house. So I go in and I'm starting to sort it out, and I get, I got that tape and probably a few other tapes, like, Seinfeld episodes or something that somebody sent over to watch, and I pop them in just to see what they are. And that one didn't have a label. So I was like, oh, wow, here it is. Boom. So, and that was that. And I was like surprised that I had that. I'm like, and it said on there, the only label it had was Phil's tape, a little yellow sticky on it that said Phil's tape. All right. So, that was in 2006 is when three when I PCS to Hurlburt. So now it's in 2003, and I noticed I have that in my kit. That's that. So didn't really care. I mean, and it wasn't like it was the first thing I did. It just happened after, I was setting up my house or whatever after we moved in. So,
well, and that was also a time that people weren't looking, like the upgrade wasn't even being talked about at that point.
Right. No.
So it's not like people were doing requests for information or anything like that. It's like, because even in you said 03, but I mean, things have been, they were very, very kinetic for quite some time. So people didn't really have time to go, we need to look at upgrading that.
Yeah. So, and look, I just, to be honest with you, I mean, anytime I watch that video, when I watched it the first time in Pakistan, I watched it again in Kandahar, and I watched it again on YouTube with Dan had put out there. That's the same video. I don't even know what I'm trying to say again. I'm losing my damn freaking.
Well, I mean, you knew Chappie, so it's gotta be tough.
Yeah, so we're watching. Here's what I'm going to say. You don't even know who's who, because I don't know, because I wasn't there, and all I see is the hot spots, the white and black hot. I see the dudes moving around, so I didn't know who was who. I just knew that was a mission that he passed away on and got killed on, and here it is. All right, so there's that, and then so that all had the tape and just didn't really pay attention to it anymore. Went back to Nellis, didn't really pay attention to it anymore. Retired in 2011, and now I was back in Florida in 2013 or 14, and me and Wayne Norad were going to a race, see Brendan race at Daytona, and we were talking about Chappie and this medal, and he was working at the group at the time, or the wing now at the time, and he's like, yeah, we're trying to get it upgraded, and I was like, hey, I've got that whole thing on video if you want to see it. And he's like, yeah. So he came over to my house after the race. We drove home from Daytona, the next day or whatever. He came over, showed it to him, gave him a copy of it, and because it was never marked or anything like that. Gave him a copy of it, and that was that. That's all I know at that point. And now, so the part that I find interesting to me is I see a lot of podcasts and other people trying to dissect what happened on that hill, and I'm not going to get into that. I value what I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Who knows, man?
I agree. We have not, as the primary aspect war podcast, even we haven't dove into what happened there because we weren't there and we don't exactly know the intricate details of it.
Right. And I really, I mean, I care, but that's my intent was just to here, y'all do your thing.
Yep.
But what's funny is people are like, well, the CIA footage finally showed up and they finally found it 10 years later. No, that wasn't the case. We had it and it was never asked for and it was given. I mean, I don't know what else to say, on that. I mean, and I don't know, if you want to like pause it here or not. I don't know if you want to say that, but it didn't have classified markings that, I don't want to feel like I'm,
older one, you're not going to get rolled up for that. I mean, because if those guys gave it to you and it's unmarked and all the metadata was gone, which at least that's all the footage I've seen, all the metadata, like it's not classified and hey, whatever at this point, like, what are you going to do? We're already declassifying JFK and MLK files. So beat it, nerds.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, since we're on here and then I'm not going to tell you the metadata is gone from my copy.
Yeah. I don't care either way. Nobody's coming after you for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Bottom line is, I got a video. I don't even have the tape anymore. I mean, I gave it over. So, I had the videotape. I gave it up, and that videotaped helped correlate the gunships video and whatever else it was, and here we are. And really, if you want to talk about that tape, the most, shocking part of it is when they shot, Razor out of the sky with the RPG. That's the biggest piece of it that I see. Because, the other fights, I mean, you see it, but you don't know. I mean, it's tiny. But when you see a helicopter, a SOAR helicopter, 160 SOAR helicopter get knocked out of the sky, that's a big deal. And that's on there, And that tape lasts at the end of the tape, it goes to daylight camera. That's how long it lasts. It lasts from the infill of Mako until daylight. Yeah, it does fast forward through some small parts, but that was what was handed to me, in Pakistan at the time. So, but that's kind of that's the story, and I'm glad to be a part. I'm glad to help out with that. But what me and you laughed about the other day is with these podcasts is this video footage finally surfaced. That's the funny part.
There it was sitting in Pimp Freeman's freaking cage, unmarked. Phil's tape.
Yeah, that's it. So, but it's look, it's Chappie. I mean, he's a hero. Man. I mean, so are the other guys that were up on there. I mean, that is what it is. I mean,
like Gabe Brown, freaking talk about going for. And this is going to sound bad because it sounds like I'm calling him a zero, but that's our saying. You go from zero to hero real quick. And you're Johnny on the spot with freaking calling in Cass, working Vipers.
Look, he was at Little Rock. He was at Little Rock for his job. He was a det of 2-2. They were there to help out the C-130 course and kind of it was kind of what I was doing at Nellis. It was kind of an admin type of job same thing kind of what I was doing at Nellis when I was there. So, but when the balloon went up, he went up. And he was on those trips with us, and he got qualified. And he wouldn't have got qualified if he couldn't have done the job. Now after I know what I knew then about close air support and what I know now about it.
Oh man,
a lot different. I wouldn't have been qualified, if I was judging me back then. So, the fact is that he did a great job. I mean, so did Kevin Vance. I mean, it was a team. Yeah. I mean, the guys that kept him alive. I mean, you could go on and on about that.
Yeah. And the part that, I've done a podcast with, I've been on the War Room podcast with, there's a Navy SEAL on there, Jake Zwig, who was a NSW officer. He was a SEAL officer, right? And to include Goggins, like I met David Goggins 2 weeks ago, right? And he started talking about Chapin. And they don't give the one thing that we've never done is like, I have never gone at the SEALs and been like, you guys left our dude up there and that's right. I've never done that because I wasn't there. Shit's crazy. Like I've been in firefights and I know that your perception of things changes and it's like, now I've never left anybody at the same time. Right. But I'll tell you what, the two SEALs that, Jake Zwig and David Goggins, both in conversations are like, absolutely freaking not. That is, and they're calling out their own community for doing it, which is wild for me being on the, as a CCT. But I've never really poked the team that was out there in the chest, because I don't think it does us any good, but I don't know. Am I out to lunch here on this, or?
Look, I think you're right. I mean, we weren't there.
Right.
Look, you're in waist deep snow. You're getting shot at. You're at altitude. You just got shot out of the sky. Your buddy fell off the helicopter. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to justify what they did or what they didn't do. But in one hand, you don't want more dead folks.
Right.
So, but if you really want to know what irks me about the whole situation, and I'm not going to say who deserves what. I'm not going to. That's not my. I have an opinion, and I'll leave it at that. But my thing is if it is controversial, then I would think whoever's in charge of that museum in Texas would have considered that and would have probably made some other decisions, or the person that's on the board would have considered that himself and been more of a selfless person and not like, well, I'm on the board and now my picture's up front. I don't know how all that, again, but that right there, that chaps my ass. Not the pun intended with Chappie, but that chaps my ass that dude gets that, and Chappie, just gets a name in there. Now, there's a ton of Medal of Honor winners that every one of their families think they deserve that spot. But I think that's a little sour.
Yeah, and what you're alluding to for everybody that's out there, in case you haven't been tracking, is there's a new Medal of Honor museum that's opening up in March, and there are 3,500 in history, I believe. I think it's 3,500 Medal of Honor recipients. So totally acknowledge a Medal of Honor museum cannot possibly have a display for 3,500 people. Like, totally agree. However, there are a bunch of board members that are sitting on that, and John Chapman does not have a feature in the museum, although he is the first, Medal of Honor incident, or, like that situation, first Medal of Honor recipient where his actions were caught on ISR, right? So it's the first one ever on tape. Mm-hmm. And one of the board members of the Medal of Honor museum is Britt Slabinski, who also was awarded the Medal of Honor for those actions, which that's the controversy, is he is living, he is on the board, and he is getting a feature, his own feature at the museum, whereas on the same exact mission he was on, where his team left John Chapman is not getting a feature. Mm-hmm. That's and he's deceased. Like, and I totally agree, because if I'm on that board and I know all the history behind it, I would never want to be featured. Are you kidding me? Dude, it's bad enough I'm on the board, but like, I don't want to be featured at all. Like, it should go to the deceased gentleman.
And the fact that he's on the board tells me he probably he could have weighed in. And maybe he did weigh in, and maybe they said no, but I doubt that. Why would they not take the advice of a guy on their board who's a Medal of Honor winner? Why not? That makes no sense to me. But look, I'm not, and that's a decision that, again, I could choose to support or not support that. And my vote was, I won't go see the museum, and that's it. I won't support it. Anybody else does, I think it's wonderful, but until that changes, I won't support it. But I don't live in Texas, and I mean, when do I ever get there anyway? So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I'm not going to get to walk in. Okay, who cares? I don't walk in, But that's my thing, because when I talk about, that's just one thing. And because with, the Navy, when you talk about the Navy, I mean, look, some of those dudes are some of my best friends. I mean, I love those guys. I support them today, right now. And I tell you what, I love supporting the Navy. They're killing it in the SOCOM fire support realm, and I love what they're doing. I love supporting them. I was in a gunfight with them in Serbia back in '99, and I, dude. So I got no ill will anywhere on that kind of thing. I just, but I just want to make that clear that, that it's not a service thing. This is an individual thing and decisions that were made. And again, we can learn to get glad in the same pants we get mad in, right?
I've not heard that before, but yeah.
Donnie Nickel quote.
Say that one more time.
We can get glad in the same pants we get mad in.
Yeah, we can.
That's it. I have to do it every day.
We could also piss in our pants too, but whatever.
Yeah, I pee and get glad and get mad all in the same pants.
All in the same pants. It's amazing.
The comments on this damn video are going to be roasted. Lord Almighty. We might have to publish this. Anyway,
I'm not deleting anything, by the way. I don't edit anything. The only time I do edits is if somebody at the back afterwards are like, hey, dude, I said something and I think we ought to take it out, or we have technical difficulties. That's about it. I leave everything in.
So me losing my train of thought mid-sentence is going to stay on this video?
Absolutely. Because Jesus. I lose my train of thought all the time on here. And all the listeners and viewers know it, especially when I do solo ones. I'm just like, because I'm looking at a camera, right? And I don't have somebody like you. I can see it. I can see your facial expressions, your eyes, and like I can read you and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When I'm
all
on
my own, is my shiny head.
Yeah. When I'm on my own, I'm just looking straight down a camera, and I get lost in it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So what I was going to say is what I do like about my part of that is there's little things that I have some happiness and pride in that I've been a part of, and that that's one of them. Another one is your career and you replacing me at the weapons school. Yeah, the big.
Thanks for this, by the way.
Yeah. Me and BG worked together to get that, but because I look, since I'm here and I'm telling stories. I tell you what, again, this is not a personal thing. The dude's a great dude. He's one of the heroes of our place and got 5 combat jumps. But one of my favorite days was when he called me bitching at me because I blackballed the guy who he wanted to replace me. And I love that guy too.
You're going to have to back up now because nobody's going to know what you're talking about.
All right. So
you don't have to use names. But
okay, I was retired in 2011, and we had worked really hard to get the wicks moving in the right direction. At first, it was going to be an AIC, but I knew in the future it was going to be a wick. I knew that. But I had a knee replacement. I was there long enough. It was time for me to go or retire, so I was going to be gone no matter what. So the replacements were starting to come in. Bickle had come in, and Patton had come in, and but they had one other guy, and they had another dude pick for it. And that dude, great operator, great. Dude's a beast, The kind of guy, it's like break glass in case of war. He's the dude you want with you in a bar fight. He's the guy you want with you on the side of a hill. But he might not be the guy to professionalize the JTAC force. And so and it wasn't just my decision. It was the Trough's decision too. They saw who showed up, who sat up front, who participated, and where they got really bang for their buck out of us, and when they didn't. And they paid for our guys to be there. And sometimes it was, sometimes the guys sit in the back, and it is what it is. All right. But yeah. You would bring dudes, you focused, you were there. And so we saw that, and that was what Johnny Bravo and I decided to try to make happen. And bottom line, it wasn't what I said or did. It was the weapons school. I was an E5, E7 at the, Master Sergeant. My decision don't matter. But I weighed in on that. But my point is the little impacts I had on that, getting you there, and now seeing what's happened. Now you had the AIC get off the ground. Then you had a WIC get off the ground. Then you became the chief of the weapons school. And these things I knew some of these things would happen. It keeps getting better. There's only one thing you haven't gotten. And I said it is your retirement. And that's the Reisner. And I think you get back into a war situation, you're going to get that.
Yeah.
So because guys are going to be out there on the tip of the spear. And that's another reason why you need, that education is really what the guys wanted. They didn't care about clothing. They cared about education, because you don't have that dude to touch in the cockpit. If you're in the back, you're a enlisted dude in the back of an aircraft, you've got patches all around it. So, but we don't. And we're basically taking what they, working with those dudes. So that education is what really wanted to happen. And it wasn't just me, it was other guys involved in it. But what I like is that my little key part of that, because I fought for that and kept, we had to do good, we had to do a lot of good stuff. We had guys go out and screw up. We had to man up on those things. We didn't hide from things, and we just, we represented. And and I think really that's what got it off the ground is the performance of the guys that were there. It wasn't me. I mean, it was, it was the performance of the dudes. Because if we'd have brought in a bunch of clowns, they would have said no.
Yeah.
So there's that thing, and it's just little things that like background. I'm like the background guy, getting that video helped out. I'm in the credits of Alone at Dawn. I mean, I was glad to answer any questions that I was asked when it was being written. Another piece of the I got my light helmet shirt. I used to, back when my kid played football, he had a concussion at like 9U. So we were out at the Daytona race again, and Brendan's like, "Hey, you ought to try our racing helmets." And they have football. The guys make football helmets. So Bill Simpson made football helmets. So I got into that, and that's the lightest helmet out there. And Jeff Saturday wore it in the NFL, and a bunch of other guys, a few guys were in the NFL, but it wasn't a big helmet because it's not Rydell, Shutt, Zenith, whatnot. So I saw this company getting kind of squandered because it seemed like every year, 3 years, they fired their lead salesman every Christmas. And I thought that was kind of a crappy thing to do. But I didn't know Bill. I just worked for those salesmen. I was just a guy that repped them down in Navarre and had Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, some Pensacola kids wearing the helmets. All right. So as I was involved in it, I would go out to, doing my other job, the JTAC work I'm doing. I'd go out to San Diego and I would hang out with Nick Asayan, who used to race and is very involved with this, the Special Ops Warrior Foundation. Great dude, honorary SEAL. I mean, just an amazing man. All right. So we're out there and he likes to swill a few bourbons, and as did I, and basically dared him to buy the company, and he did it. And he
dared him to buy the company.
Yeah, I basically,
just goaded him into it. Huh?
Just goaded him into it. And him and Justin Burt and a few other guys, and it's the story's on their webpage. You can go to their front page and how we got our story, and it says it on there. But yeah, so now, now we've got the #1 football helmet, safest football helmet in the world, better than Zenith, Rydell, Shutt. We are the Virginia Tech. The Virginia Tech tests all the helmets and gives a score, and we are our helmet is #1. Where we have 3 of them on the list that are in the top 10, but we have the safest helmet, and that just came out in January, so it's new information. But it's really cool to see now. Once again, this is back in 2015-16. Buy that company. Yeah, you won't buy that company.
You won't buy it.
It's going to go to crap. Come on, they're lightweight helmets. That's the reason it's called light, is because they weigh less than other helmets. So when you have more weight slapping the ground, twice the weight, that's twice the energy. That's twice the opportunity for concussion. So.
And I'll tell you, man, when you the Super Bowl just happened, you see some of those hits, some of those helmet to helmet, some of the helmet on the ground. You're like, dude, they've got to have a headache after that. There's got to be concussions. And I know in one of the playoffs games, one dude was going through the concussion treatment, and then he got hit again, and then he was out. I mean, so it's a real threat, dealing with this CTE and concussions and stuff like that. And we know because, doing static line jumps, you get a hard landing on even on a free fall night jump to include IEDs and stuff like that. But I mean, just training wise, you hit your noggin and it's not a good day.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, my kid wore it all through high school. He played middle linebacker and O-line. He was every play that he was in, he was hitting. So he never had after that one concussion where he had a Rydell after that. And look, I'm not going to say the helmet caused it, but that's what he was wearing. And after that, from 10U to a senior in high school, never had another problem. So, you know, and I've got other kids wearing them. They've just been demolished. Quarterbacks been demolished. Battle Alberson, he played quarterback at the Gulf Breeze. He's now one of the quarterbacks at UT Chattanooga. He would get demolished playing high school, you know, quarterback, and he would get right back up, and his dad and him, you know, attribute to the helmet. So it's kind of cool. We're looking at going into the tactical space, this and that. But I mean, Cam Jordan from the Saints, he's their defensive captain. He's an investor now. He wears our helmet every day in the NFL, every game he's in. You know, we're getting out there more and more. You know, we have a commercial on online and everything. And I don't help. I just help them a little bit right now because they're growing and they got a staff that's really there that's killing it. But I'm always there to help, and I'll go help them with a show here and there if they need it. But they're really turning the corner into a professional helmet company. Not that they weren't before, but it's hard to compete with people who've been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years.
Champion, like all these different companies.
Yeah.
They're institutions, if you will.
Yeah, and there's people involved in the football helmet, you know, decision, or the NFL's Player Association and the equipment that's allowed to be played. And some of those people can keep other equipment out of that because they have a say in it, and when they have affiliations with other equipment companies.
If it involves money, if it involves money or some kind of certification, you know that there's politics and there's money being thrown around.
What I like the best about this story is I've heard Nick, I've seen him, he calls, bitch, he's ripped my ass. What'd you get me into? You son of a... I mean, because I will say he was very well off, and he's not as well off as he was because he's you know, and I have to assume it's because he's taking care of his boys in college and he's putting everything he owns into this helmet company. So I know that things have changed for him in his life, but what I like the most about it is he's got the #1 helmet in the world right now. And the best part about that is he didn't quit. He continued to chop. He chopped. He kept chopping. He kept chopping. He kept chopping. He kept chopping. Didn't give up when they didn't have any investors around, you know, all this and that, and just the odds were against him. He kept chopping, and here he is, the #1 dude. That's a story that I like to talk about.
Well,
you know, that's
100% agree, and
being behind the scenes of that. I mean, you know, that's kind of cool. You know, that's a neat thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick's a great guy, and switching gears a little bit, since you're talking about chopping, you haven't stopped chopping either, because you said that you retired in 2011 after doing, I don't even know what it was. It ended up being 25 years.
24 and a half or something.
24 years of being a CCT, and then you continued on to serve the boys. I know you had like a 2-year break in there post-retirement, kind of, you know, but you came back and you started working for Odyssey, which runs the SOCOM, I'll say SOCOM right now, because I know you guys have gone into Air Combat Command as well, but Special Operations Command's FIRES program in terms of tracking, Joint Terminal Attack Control, academics, calls, logging, all the training and everything like that, and helping to ensure that the warfighter is ready to go at a moment's notice, or if there's any kind of 15-6 or something like that, being able to pull records. You guys help with inspections and all of this. And I'm gonna give you a whole bunch of kudos on this, and I'm just gonna say it whether it's right or wrong, but all of this was predicated on you doing that.
Well, I just got in the right spot.
Well, you know.
Yeah, I got the job. That was, you know, and when it came around, and I put my name in and got selected. And there's some cool people that you know, I was vetted, and there's some people that I didn't know about this until after I got hired. But I was vetted, and people, you know, were like, yeah, hey, this dude, Juan Valentine was a guy down from, he was working in Orlando at the time, working with SOCOM. You know, Matt Green's the one who made the decision.
Oh, Matty Green.
Matty Green. I mean, I tell you what, I love him to death. So here's the thing. We got in there, and they had a system out there called Tactics, which ACC uses, which we support that as well. And now, and I actually love doing that. So we took that and cloned it, because that's what basically AFSOC bought. But it had some things, some quirks to it that needed some effort to put toward it. And the ACC guys were so busy going to war and doing all that other stuff, they didn't really have a lot of time to focus on how can we make this better. And so when I got in there, I just come fresh out of the WIC, and I'm like, all I'm trying to do is, what can I do where can we improve? Where can we improve? All right. So started looking at that and made it to where it was, a more usable system, and then added more reports, roster reports, totals reports, loss of currency reports. I mean, now we've got an eval form. You have a cast log, you hit go, it fills out your eval form and populates your 942 or your soft-eval records review log, and then populates your profile. But this is, it's all that fire support training, and to be a part, to see the SOCOM program come along from where it was in 2013, because it's been a lot longer than that, but really taken off, and seeing the components who came into this, and they've done well, they struggled, but right now, it is kicking. It's the best we've ever seen it. It's got great leaders. Not that it didn't have them in the past. You were one of them, but it's got great leadership right now. It's got, and that's talking components all along the components. And so that's really, I enjoy. Look, and here's the thing, man. I'm retired. I'm an empty nester. Daughter works for Southwest, flight attendant. My son's out of Texas working for her brother, So, I got nothing going on. So when somebody calls me and it's after hours, I get tickled. I'm like, oh, I got somebody to talk to. So I get to go and answer the call and then come back in here and help these dudes out. And, that's the thing. And I love it. When a guy hit us up on tech support, I need some help with this. I'm like, what's your number? Call him up right then. And then I put me in your phone. If you got a question, you text me. I'm going to get to you. I'll help. Because they pay to keep this thing operational. And we're not perfect. We struggle and we have bugs and we come up, up and down. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to support the customer. And the customer, the user, are people that I personally care about and love. The ACC dude, Jay Schaller, become one of my best friends. I love that cat. I talk to him every day, personally and professionally. Jared Petts at SOCOM. I mean, really has championed a lot of the growth and where the program is going right now. And look, we've taken our hits, we've taken setbacks, we've had to compete. We're still around. I'll just say I won't say we won anything, because it's always a war, but we've won some battles. Let's call that. We won some battles, and we're still out there right now. And every day I wake up with a job to help these dudes out. I'm blessed.
And the reason why I brought it up is because we get a lot of questions about like, what could I do afterwards? And it's like, dude, you still spent 24 years serving your country, and now you have spent since 2013, 2014?
12. I came along here in 2012. SOCOM got on board in 13, but AFSOC was 2012.
So 2012, 2013, and since then you've by all means continued to support the dudes that are heading out downrange. And that kind of brings me to the conversation that we were having earlier, is servitude leadership. And you're talking to me last week about, servitude and what it meant to you. And so I wanted to open up the book on that.
Yeah. So, leadership's hard, man. It's almost like you got to play. It's like playing an instrument in tune. And if you ain't in tune, you ain't leading right. Something's not going to be jiving unless somebody just doesn't care about listening to good music or music that's not in tune. You know what I mean? I mean, and when I say this, it's playing in tune, because we all want leaders. We want guys that we respect. We want to follow, that we would do anything for, we'd die for, So I was up hunting this weekend with some of my buddies here from Gulf Breeze. And there's one of the gentlemen is named Jeff, who works for Florida Power and Light. And he's been with them for a while. And they've had to, and I'm fascinated by what he does, because he's on the emergency response and all that stuff. And we just had a snowstorm. He had to deal with that. We've had hurricanes, all the stuff that's hit the bend of Florida. I mean, he's involved with all that repair. And I was asking him, because I didn't understand. I want to know how it works. I was like, because here I got this dude for an hour in a car. I'm like, all right, what does that mean on those lines? And he's telling me what lines are what and this and that. And then we start talking about how'd you get this job? How'd you get into it? And, engineer, this and that. But one thing he said, he goes, my dad was in this job. And he goes, my dad told me, when I get in there, and get my crew. He says, get in, bring the crew coffee, donuts, this and that, take care of your crew, but listen, just sit and listen to them and let them talk and air out what they got. Because then you're going to figure out what the climate is of your crew and the company. And then you can make decisions on how to, affect it the best way you can. And basically it was like, same thing with Mac, with Terry. Terry was not going to, I was like, I'm, bluesing, feeling sorry for myself, poopy pantsed. And he could have said, you know what, you're right. That's it. But no, he's like, you know what we're going to do? You're going to get back in this game. And here's how you're going to do it. I'm going to get back in. I'm going to walk with you and we're going to do it together. That is, and I still talk to him today. We talk, we talk work stuff, we talk friend stuff. But that's kind of, the leadership that, you want to follow. Johnny Bravo Drive, another guy. I'm just listing a few of the many.
You could just sit here and roll down the Rolodex of boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and the people who know me on this, that's seen this, and me, I have no problem and probably enjoy pissing people off. I like it because if there's, if I get a chance and if there's something I want to stick it to you, I'm going to do it. But on the same token, there are guys that I do not want to disappoint ever.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of leaders that are that. And I'm not, I would, I like to take care of my team right now. I'm a leader of my team and stuff. And I love taking care of those guys. And really that's my main focus. My main focus is taking care of my team and taking care of the operators who we're supporting. That's what I really, and of course, because the family's going to take care of itself if you take care of that stuff, Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of where it's at. I just think that, leadership by, just subservient leadership, just what can, being the first, like here's another story. Chief NORAD. All right. And I know we're going to wind it all down here, but Chief NORAD, he takes a whole team to Jordan, to Bright Star or whatever it is. I don't know the exercise it used to be called or whatever.
Right.
Some big exercise. This is back in the 80s. All right. And they go in and they get their place that they're living is it's got a bomb, a bomb dump of a toilet and it's full. And if we're going to be here for a while, we're going to need a place to go to the bathroom. And that means this place has got to get clean. So he didn't just say, clean this and clean that and clean this and clean that. He rolls his sleeves up and sticks his hand and starts cleaning out that bomb dump by him. He starts doing it. And then the rest of the dudes like, whoa, that's not happening. The chief ain't doing that. And now everybody's involved with it is because he led by example, not by dictating. And that's just another dude that's a mentor in my life. I'm sure, you've spent some time with him, Aura. He's one of the fathers of our community. So, just that kind of leadership, if you will, is, I try to get there. I don't know if I ever will.
Well, I think that kind of leadership also will take you a lot farther than a dictatorial kind of leadership. And it's also one of the ones that probably sticks with you. We all have had at least a commander or some kind of chief or somebody like that who is a dictator, and you totally remember them for a long time and you learn a lot from them of how not to act and what not to do. But I think the ones where you reminisce on them fondly are the ones that are that, servant leaders.
Yeah. Well, here's another one. People are going to probably delete this podcast immediately, but Terry Willett. I tell you, there's a lot of people that don't like that man in our community. I love that man. I will tell you, I was in Bosnia with the SF in Uglavik, with the Russians, Spetsnaz and the SF dudes. My wife's in England. He's a commander. It's Labor Day weekend. We had one car. It broke. It's an American car. Her dad sent it over a part because he's in the car business. But how are we going to get it fixed? How are we going to get it to the car shop and all this and that? And I can't handle it because I'm over there working. So I'm trying to do this via morale calls and this and that. And the first sergeant's like, well, you should have a plan. And,
you should have a plan.
So the next thing I know, I call back home and Jackie tells me, hey, Colonel Willett just came down and got the car, took it to the hobby shop, fixed it himself, and brought it back. I mean, on his 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll tell you another thing. I mean, look, I'm known for a lot of things, but I've never been known for acing the PT test. But when T. Eugene Willett was the boss,
you passed.
My ass was in shape.
Yeah.
My ass was in the best shape of my life. I was playing rugby. I mean, it just benefited. I was like, this is great. Got to go play for the Air Force. I mean, I got to do some cool stuff. So,
yeah.
You know, but my point is that's the kind. Not a lot of people liked his leadership. Yeah, and he didn't want to buy the Gucci gear. You know, he was an old Marine. But I tell you what, we operated and we did well. You know, and so
I remember.
You know, that's the kind of guy I miss that man. I'd like to see him. I'd like to hug that man's neck.
I haven't heard that name in a long time, but I remember when I got to the 21st, he had only had 3 or 3 months left because I got there in I think April or something like that. And right before I had gotten there, the guys were telling me a war story about him because we used to do, I think it was every Tuesday with Squadron PT, and you know, the operators would go out for a 3-mile run after doing cows and that kind of stuff, and he had actually timed them, and anybody that he didn't let them know, but anybody that got over 24 minutes, 8-minute miles, he was like, all right, go again. And you don't stop until you get under 24. Well, they had just finished up, weren't expecting it, went out. Not everybody made it back in 24. So they made them do it again. Like, you know, ended up being, you know, 9 miles. And everybody made it at that point, but it was just like, whoa. Like,
I'd have been,
you know, and it's not like
bitching the whole time.
Yeah. It's not like 9 miles is crazy, right? But if you didn't know, like, because you're just going out, all right, well, I'm gonna go out for a nice little jaunt, right? And didn't know that you were being timed. You get back and it's like, no, you're doing it again, and you're gonna get under 24. Yeah. Like if you had a late night the night before or something like that, like it's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's speaking of late nights. I love this when we get to start telling stories. I remember one time, this is another one, dude, I love to death. This is one of my favorite combat controllers ever. Is Don Stevens. He shows up with a 2-3, and he had this one cat. I forget his name. He was again, great operator, the kind of guy you want to bar fight and do on the hill with you, but just like the parties too much. So we had this in brief. We had to have an in brief on Sundays because people were wrecking cars and tearing up the wrong targets and this and that, and you know, it ended up being a thing. So here they come. They show up to start their, you know, to get their in brief, and one guy comes bouncing in about, you know, 15 minutes late, still in his going out clothes, still in his jacket, his little blue suede sport coat pants, and, you know, catch me, F me pants, and some nice shoes. And everybody else was there in PT gear, you know, because that was the uniform that Don told him to show up. And when I was driving away, because after it was all set up, and I gave him a hanger, said, y'all do your thing, I'll see you tomorrow. After the brief was done, when I was leaving, I turned to look so I don't get hit by the car going on the street right in front of the weapons school. Yeah. I look left. There goes Stevens and that old boy in that damn sport coat running down the street. And it was hot. It was summer. It was hot. It was miserable. I mean, I tell you what, he was on time the rest of the week.
I bet he was. But so that goes to the difference in mentality, right? That is a nightmare for a normal Air Force person. A complete nightmare. Dear God, do not send me out on a run after I'm hungover or just tired and in the heat. They'd take paperwork for it. Give me an LOC, LOR, something like that. Mm-hmm. For us, we're like, no, dude, take me out on that run. Smoke the absolute shit out of me. Like, just don't give me paperwork. Because then it makes it real, you know, when it's paper for us. It's just
it makes it real. Thing. But there's, get his name, but there's a dude that was at the 2-2. He was, I'll come up with it in a minute, but he's like, if I get paperwork, what are they going to do? They ain't gonna hurt me unless they roll it up in a point and poke me in the eye with it.
But and I know it's true because it's like, whatever, an LOC, LOR, like, big freaking deal. But it's just like, it's just the way our community is. It's like, man, if you're, I want to take you on a run, or I want to make you bang gates with a rucksack, or I'm going to take you on a smoke session because I care. The paperwork is so detached. It's almost like, dude, you're just like, you can't be bothered to do this. So like, whatever, I'll just give you paperwork, some standard template. Here you go. Whereas I'm showing you I care about you and I see potential in you, and I'm going to smoke the shit out of you. And that's why I care, because I need you to be better. I need you to remember this. You're not going to remember an LOC. You're going to remember this.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Well, I think that guy ended up not making it. You know, he's not in anymore, but still, it wasn't for lack of effort.
There you go.
Yeah, I forget his name. I probably could remember it, but anyway, I'm bad with names now. My head. Well,
it happens.
There's a lot of stuff, but
I guess you need to wear a light helmet more often, I guess.
Hey, yeah. It doesn't fit. I don't even know if it'll fit.
All right, dude. Well, I do appreciate you. There we go, dude. Hell yeah.
Let's go.
Oh, I need to take a picture of that.
Hey, attack the near hip. Attack the near hip. Attack the near hip. Get your hips into it. Closer you get, the faster you go.
All right, dude. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Everybody out there, head over to ONESREADY.com. Buy yourself a piece of merch. Hey, actually, speaking of which, what's the website for light helmets?
Oh, it's lighthelmets.com. Let me yeah.
I totally put you on the spot.
You did.
My bad.
LIGHTHELMETS.
Yep, lighthelmets.com.
That's it. I don't go to the website that much.
Yeah, I imagine you wouldn't. But
lighthelmets.com. Yeah, that's hey, I'm telling you now, if you or your kid plays sports, consider that. Consider a light. Take a look at it. It weighs less than the other brands. You know, I wouldn't. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, youth helmets, varsity helmets, flag football. Just got the Apache.
That's our new one. That's the #1 helmet.
Number one.
That's on the Virginia Tech list.
Nice. Look at that thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if you pick, since you're doing that real quick, once you do that, go real quick to Virginia Tech helmet ratings. We can show where we are.
Like Google it.
Yeah, just Google it, pull it up. It'll be a link.
Helmet study.
Virginia Tech helmet ratings. Boom. Scroll. Varsity football. See, he has all the helmet ratings for every sport. Look at that.
Oh, there it is. Light Apache.
Boom. Hey, how about that? Keep scrolling. Look at number. Keep going. Scroll. Look at number 4.
Number 1, number 4,
and 9.
Number 9.
That's it.
Ooh, man, this guy's crushing it.
My kid wore the 9 because they didn't have 4 and 1 back when he played.
Oh, the Gladiator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Badass.
There you go, man.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm not invested in the company, but I believe in it because my kid wore it. I coached, and I that's what I would do that's what I did for my kid, and my kid never had any problems with it. So, it ain't what you see every day, but if that's what you want, then continue to play with headaches.
Well, your brain's probably the most important thing you can protect. So,
yeah.
But yeah, everybody out there, go check out lighthelmets.com, also ONESREADY.com. Don't forget to comment if you got questions about it, or you want clarification, or you want to troll the hell out of Phil Pimp Freeman, then go for it in the comments, and we'll see you later. Thanks, dude.
See ya.